Welcome to Catholic Discovery 101. Our program is dedicated to sharing the Catholic faith we love with our friends and neighbors in the Pocatello-Chubbuck area. My name is Liz Johnson. I'm a parishioner with Holy Spirit Catholic Community. Today, our guest is Jamie Thietten. Jamie is a Catholic recording artist and the voice for the unborn. Jamie recently moved to Pocatello, and she's going to tell us a little bit about herself today. Jamie, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being a part of our program.
Thank you.
Let's begin today by talking about your early life, where you grew up, your family, your religious background, and how you came to be a Catholic.
Well, that's a lot of information in a very short period of time. I will try to sum it up as best I can in a short period of time. I grew up in Twin Falls, Idaho. I have an older sister and a younger brother. And we grew up in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. We were very active in our faith, and I grew up singing in church with my mom and my sister. My mom played piano, and we'd always do special musics and stuff like that, and get called in for the occasional funeral or wedding, you know, of course. And so I grew up in a very, very musical family, which was great. I went to private schools most of my life, private Adventist schools. Up through high school, I went away to a boarding school. Everybody looks at me and goes, "You went to a boarding school?" I said, "Yeah," and I wasn't bad. I didn't just get sent away because I was bad. It was just something that we did. So I went away 2 hours from home and lived in a dormitory, a girls' dormitory. There were guys and girls, but there was a guys' dormitory and a girls' dormitory, and so we went to school up there, and then we come home on home leaves and stuff like that. So I learned to do laundry at a very, very early age.
I can imagine.
Take care of myself. Then I moved on to college and entered the Miss Magic Valley pageant because someone told me that would be a great way to meet people. I'd been away for a long time from home, and so you move back home after high school and you're going to the community college and you don't know anybody, and so someone's like, "Why don't you get involved in the Miss Magic Valley pageant?" I was a basketball player, so when someone said that,
wonderful.
I was like, tennis shoes, high heels, which one should I choose? But I ended up getting into that, and I won the darn thing, which I wasn't planning on doing. And so as they're placing the crown on my head, I'm like, what have I gotten myself into? But it was a good experience, and it helped me to get my voice out there, to get it started. But I had not even thought about doing music until I was in high school, actually. I always sang, but never did I ever think of doing it as a profession or career or anything like that. Never even crossed my mind, you know. And so a teacher came up to me right before graduation, and he said, "Jamie," he goes, "we're going to miss you, and I don't want you to forget about me, and I want your first CD when it comes out." And I looked at him like, "What? You want what?" And I didn't want to let him down. I was off to go to college to be a nurse or an EMT. I really thought that would be really neat. What he said really got me thinking, though. So I made him this little karaoke tape. I know that dates me, but I made him a little tape on my little karaoke machine and put several songs on there and put a little bow on it with a little note and gave it to him at graduation and said, "Here, I didn't want to let you down. Here's my tape. I don't know how to make a CD, but here's a tape.
Here's a mixtape.
Here's a mixtape, whatever. And enjoy, have fun, see you later, you know, thank you so much." And since then, he's actually gotten the first CD out of every box that I've done.
Oh,
so I've
that's
kept in
wonderful.
contact with him, and because I don't know if what he said, you know, if he hadn't have said what he said, I don't think, you know, I don't know what I'd be doing. I hope God would have brought it to me a different way, but that's just how influential some people are in our lives, you know, especially in school. And so it's exciting to look back on that and see what the little seeds God plants in your path, you know, and so that's kind of that.
Sometimes they're big trees that force us to take a whole nother
Sometimes
path.
I need those because I don't see the subtle hints. I need the big neon signs. But
to get lost. So how did you meet your husband, Pete?
My goodness, we were in college, or I was in college, and he was actually, I don't like this story, but he was dating a friend of mine, and they broke up, and so Pete and I had started dating. And my parents, of course, you know, you've seen Pete, for those of you who've watched the show and you've seen Pete be interviewed with the tattoos and all that, you know, Pete shows up at the door, and you imagine my dad's surprise when it's not this nice, clean-cut guy, you know. With but my parents were great about it, and my dad was great about it, and we ended up dating and getting married.
Well, and it's a good lesson in people are not always what our misconceptions are. Pete is a very kind, wonderful, spiritual person.
Yes, he is.
He just likes tattoos.
Well, you can't judge a book by its cover, and I think Pete is the best example of that.
He's a very, very good
cannot judge a
example
book
of
by
that.
its cover.
That's very true. So let's learn a little bit about your faith journey with Pete. And how you came into the Catholic Church, because Pete came into the Catholic Church first,
Right.
and you didn't.
No.
So
I was Seventh-day Adventist. How hard is that to come into the Catholic Church as a Seventh-day Adventist? We started going to church when we dated, because I felt it was very important that as things progressed and it looked like we were going to be able, be getting married, it was very important to me that we go to church together. And so we found a non-denominational church to go to, and Pete was baptized there. And anyway, we just kept going there. And then a year after we started going, he actually started doing studies and studied himself right into the Catholic Church. So after we were married, it was about a year, and he became Catholic. And for me, people were like, "Oh my goodness, doesn't that scare you, Jamie? Aren't you? Oh, Pete's Catholic now, and you're not. And oh my goodness, what are you going to do?" And I said, I hear his prayers every night. He's where he's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. And they're like, "Well, what about you?" And I was like, "Well, I'm not going to be Catholic. I'm not going to the Catholic Church." You know what I mean? It was just like, "Woo, he's fine for Pete, but not for me." And about 6 years later, we were struggling with having children. We've struggled with infertility, and we started thinking about adoption and just really focusing on, we're going to bring kids now into our relationship. So what are we going to do with that? And how are we going to do the whole religion thing? What are we going to do? And so I started realizing that I wanted to raise my children with just a good balance of our religions, but mostly just to have respect. Raise them with a healthy respect, for each religion. And Pete knew all about mine because he had studied. I knew nothing about the Catholic Church other than what I'd been told by Adventists, which you can imagine how true all of that was. Yeah. And so I realized that one of the ways that I could go learn about the Catholic faith and not have to be forced or feel like I was being forced into the Catholic faith was I could go to RCIA, because I know that's why Pete went. He just went to learn more about the faith. So I went to RCIA. I leaned over. We were in Mass, and I occasionally I'd go to Mass with him, not very often, but we were sitting at Mass, and I leaned over to Pete as they were making an announcement for RCIA, and I said, "I think I'm going to go to that." And he just sat there, and I'm like, "Did you not hear me? I'm going to go to RCIA." I was expecting some smile or something. He just said, "Okay." That's all he did. That's all he did.
He wasn't going to push you.
Later, I found out as he was sitting there, he's like, "Lord, what do I do? What do I say? What do I do? What do I say? What do I do?" And God said, "Keep your mouth shut." And for once, Pete actually listened. So I went into RCIA. It was a struggle, because as I learned and as I started delving into what Catholics believed and why they believed and all that, and so many things that I've been told about the Catholic faith that weren't true, I'm just like, oh my goodness, this was such an eye-opener for me. I was like, I thought this was what they believed, but it's really not, it's this, and it all started to make sense.
Mm-hmm. But and there had to be a deep inner struggle.
Oh, huge. And the wall went back up. I was like, I'm done. I got to leave. I got to get out of here. And so I stopped going for 2 weeks. And in that 2 weeks, I decided I cannot fear something. If I truly trust God to lead me, and if I'm truly praying over this, and there's nothing to fear. Mm-hmm. I'm just learning about something. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I went back. And the night I went back was the night on the Eucharist.
Oh.
And the rest is history. I had a lot of other things to work through, but the Eucharist is what I could not deny. The true presence.
Truly brought you back.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And
it still gives me chills.
It gives me chills to think about it. It gives me chills too.
So,
that's wonderful. Okay, so now let's switch from the spiritual to your journey to become a professional recording artist.
Okay.
That took you from Idaho.
That took me from Idaho. I was doing that right out of the second year of college. I started doing music more and getting involved in more things. Like I said, Miss Magic Valley, doing that got me out there. But then I started singing in churches and a lot of different denominations all over the place. And I was doing, oh gosh, 30, 40, 50 concerts a year. And Pete and I were in Napa at the time, and this was right after I became Catholic. I decided that I needed to really go for it. You know, if I never really tried and went for it, you know, that I would always wonder, you know, what would have happened if I would have moved to LA or moved to Nashville or something, what would have happened. And so I moved, we actually prayed about it. I told Pete, I said, I know it's really hard to move this far away, but I really think we should pray about this and see if God opens a door for us to go. And the door was wide open, so we went. Went to Nashville, and because of all the green lights and all the doors opening for us to get there, I mean, it was crazy, all the things that just happened to get us there. And I got there, and so I was expecting the same thing, that all these opportunities would open there, I would be able to meet a bunch of people and maybe be signed to a record label and have all these opportunities. Nothing. After a year of being there, I had gone from doing 40 to 50 concerts a year down to like 5.
Oh.
It was very devastating. I was like throwing my hands up in the air going, Lord, why? Why would you want to, you know, move us here and open all those doors for me to sit here and do nothing? I was way busier back home. And that's when I came to the realization that we were actually there for Pete. I was the vehicle to get us there, but Pete was supposed to be the youth minister at St. Rose of Lima.
Okay.
So that was a hard pill for me to swallow, because I was like, it was all about me when we left. It was all about music. It was all about my career. And now I had to sit and take the back seat while God used Pete the way he needed to use Pete while we were in Tennessee. And I finally came at a place where I was at peace with that, but I missed singing. I really, really missed it. And so I pleaded with God. I said, Lord, I know we're here for Pete. I really miss singing, and I really want to be used in this way in any capacity. I don't care what. I just want to be out there singing. And at the time, a lot of friends had told me to get involved in Compassion International and World Vision. And Compassion International and World Vision are basically organizations where artists like me go out and we spread the message and pass out cards of children in other countries who need clothing, need food, need schooling, those kind of things. And so you pledge $30 a month or whatever it is. And so you take these cards around at concerts and you do this and you help these kids get clothed, which is wonderful. I mean, it's such a wonderful thing. It's like Catholic Charities, like what we do at Catholic Charities. But I told them, I said, this is wonderful, but I need to go pray about it. And so as I was at home that week praying about it, I remember one day I was sitting in the office and I was just kind of leaning back in my chair and just kind of praying, Lord, do you want me to be a voice for these kids? Or do you have something else for me to do? And as clear as if he were sitting in the room with me, like I said, I don't take the subtle hints, I need that neon sign. As clear as if he were sitting in the room with me, I heard a voice say, Jamie, I want you to be a voice for the unborn. And I was just kind of, whoa, fell back in my chair and was like, what? Because through my head, I'm going, I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm trying to get a record label, because still those things were in my head. And I'm like, how in the world am I going to be able to take a message like this, which is one of the most controversial messages on the planet, and how am I going to make it in the industry? No one's going to want to take here. I'm Jamie, I'm pro-life. Who wants to sign me to a record label? You know what I mean? It's just like, no way. So I'm thinking, okay, Lord, did I hear you right? Did I hear you right? Is this really what you want me to do? Lord, do you want me to be a voice for these kids, or what do you want me to do? Jamie, I want you to be a voice for the unborn. Twice. Boom, that was it. I was like, okay. Had no idea where I was going to start, had no idea what to do. And then 2 weeks later, of course I said yes, but 2 weeks later I received an email from a friend of a friend who had no clue that God had asked me to do this. And in that email was the song My Chance. And he was pitching me this beautiful pro-life song. And so that's how the journey started.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Right now we're going to hear and see the video, My Chance, by Jamie Thietten.
Leaves were falling on Sunrise Road. I watched her mama button her coat. And then I heard that little girl say, "Can your kid come out and play?" I tried to swallow the lump in my throat, said we couldn't wait to bring him home. Ain't it funny how you forget we were gonna call him Chance? Oh, my Chance. He would have had eyes as blue as oceans, my Chance. He would have been an angel from above. I would have sang him lullabies before he went to bed. But I missed my chance. I bought him the cutest little shoes, painted my room in pastel blues, but they said we were too young to raise a son. Oh, but my Chance, he would have had eyes as blue as oceans. My Chance, he would have been an angel from above. I would have sang him lullabies before he went to bed. But I miss my chance. They promised we'd never regret it, and to this day their words still heard. We prayed each day that God would understand, but we never got a second chance. Oh, eyes as blue as oceans. He would have been an angel from above. I would have sang him lullabies before he went to bed. But I missed my chance. My angel, I would have sang him lullabies before he went to bed. But I missed my chance. He was my one, my only chance. I missed my chance.
This is such a powerful video and powerful song. If you fell in love with the song like I did, it's available on Jamie's album, Love Along the Way. It's a wonderful album. She has several of them out there. I encourage you to go look for them. Okay, now, where did that song take you? Once you stopped asking God, why are you doing this to me, and change to what do you want me to do? Where did he take you then?
You know, usually an artist takes a full album like that, like you just said, the Love Along the Way album. You do a full album and then you tour that album, and that's what kind of sustains the ministry or the career or whatever it is. This was one song and one video. And so I didn't know what God was going to do with it, but he did mighty, mighty things. And this is stuff that only God can do, that you sit there and you look at it on paper and you're like, this is never going to work. And you look back and you're like, it worked. And I don't know how it worked. But that's how it worked. But what happened is people started seeing the video. We put it out on YouTube. We sent it to pro-life groups, and they started calling and saying, what will it take to get you here to sing this song and to share this song? And that one song and one video kept and sustained the ministry for 3 full years. And that's God, because that does not happen in the industry, at least very often that I've heard of. And so that's when it was just, it really sunk into me that with God all things are possible. You know, and I think we need constant reminders of those type of things, because it's easy to just kind of get in your own thing and do your best to do everything that you can and think you're in control. And it's like, you know, I'm really not. I'd like to think I am, you know, but you're really not. And when you let go and you say, here I am, you know, it's like that song, Here I Am, Lord, use me. That's when awesome things happen.
So have you always been pro-life?
No. I came from the point of view where I didn't feel it was right, but I didn't feel it was my place to tell someone what they could or couldn't do with their own body. And my sister invited me into the birthing room when my nephew was born 14 years ago. He was born in June, 14 years ago. And when I saw his little body be delivered, a light bulb went on. You know, Pete, he was very, very pro-life in the beginning of our marriage, and he was like, we'd constantly bicker about it, and he'd be trying to tell me, well, Jamie, don't you understand? I mean, even as a Christian, how can you think that and it's like, it's not that I don't think it's right, you know, it's just I couldn't tell someone what they could or couldn't do, and he's like, so you wouldn't be a voice for that child? And it was just kind of like, I just couldn't see it, couldn't see it, and then finally, God knew it would take something else to convince me. It wasn't what someone else could tell me, but it took an experience, and that was watching my nephew be born. And I looked at him, and that was it. I said, no, he didn't have a voice. And my sister could have made a decision to end his life, and no one would have had anything to say about it. And so I said, someone's got to be a voice for these kids who don't have one. And so I started ordering brochures as fast as I could, and then I'd put them out on my table. I didn't, at the time, this was a long time ago, and I didn't have time to, or I didn't have a song or an opportunity to really, and I didn't have the guts, really, to get up and talk about it in front of people at that time. But I'd put the brochures on my CD table about just information.
But you do talk about it all the time.
Oh, I do now. God was, like I said, back then he was planting those seeds to prepare me for what was to come, and I had no idea that was coming so many years later, but that was him saying, here's what I'm going to do for you, and here's what's going to prepare you, and I didn't have any idea. So
we could talk about this for a very, very long time, but we need to move on to another stage.
Okay.
Pete brought you here to Pocatello because he's the director at St. John's Student Center on ISU campus.
Yes.
And that was a year ago?
Yep.
Okay.
It's been a year.
So now I understand you're going to be taking a new, you're taking a new step along with him.
I am. You know, there's just so much to be done at St. John's, and so I've decided to come on board and play a more active role than I did last year. Step back from music, not completely, but just not do 50 concerts a year. I'll probably step back to 10 or 15, scale it back, and help Pete over there, and just kind of be a team, you know. And that's one thing that we've been a team in a way, you know, over the years. But this will be more very active, and I'm actually looking forward to it. I really am. I hope he is. I hope he's not like, oh my goodness, I've got to see Jamie every single day, 8 hours a day with her. I think it'll be fun. We really. Honestly, we complement each other in so many different ways. A lot of people, when we go do parish missions together and all that, they say, don't ever stop doing this. You guys, one lady came up and she goes, you're greater than the sum of two. And I looked at her and I was like, Well, that makes sense, because if God's involved, you are greater
Greater
than the
than
sum of two.
Right.
But it's very neat to hear those kind of things. So we complement each other, which is very nice. So hopefully we can really get St. John's
in
moving
there.
into shaking, and I'll take care of a lot of the administrative stuff. So and the secretarial, and all the boring stuff I'll get
Yeah.
to take care of, so that he
That
can be off
he can
doing
be out
the ministry stuff, and
faith.
I'll still be doing music
Okay,
over
good.
there. But yeah, so
Well,
it's
one
fun.
of your great collaborations is also on this CD, Yesterday's News.
Right. So yesterday's
Tell that
news,
story.
and I don't have a ton of time because we don't have much time left, but this was a song that was written by Pete about an experience that he and I had walking downtown Boise. It was a very, very cold, bitter night, and I know it gets cold, and it gets colder in Pocatello, but I mean, this was one of those nights that was just frigid, and we were all bundled up, headed to a costume contest of all things, and because we really needed money bad. That youth ministry budget just doesn't go very far, but anyway, we were headed to a costume contest, and meanwhile checking out all these costumes as people would walk by. We're all bundled up, but we'd check out people's costumes, and off in the distance we saw this really weird figure coming towards us, and it was like 10 feet tall, and that crystallized cold air, you can't really tell what it is. As we got closer, we realized it was actually a homeless man, and what he had done is he had taken those cylinder plastic trash chute things that they do out of buildings for construction, and he'd put that around him to stop the wind chill. And as we walked by, we glanced down, and as he walked by, we noticed he didn't even have any shoes. He'd taken newspaper and he'd wrapped around his feet and bundled them around his feet. And Pete and I were just so awestruck and dumbfounded. We just stood there and watched him walk off. And that haunted me for weeks, that I was like, Jamie, why didn't you do anything? Why didn't you ask him if he was headed to the mission, to get food or shelter, or if he needed something, or go buy him a pair of shoes, or why didn't you do anything?
Do something.
And it just haunted me, and I said, Pete, there's no way I will be able to go back and find this man and apologize. We need to do something. And so I said, please help me write a song about this so that I can share it, so that I can help people not do the same thing that we did by walking by him that night. Because it was, if I failed the mission. I absolutely failed the mission, and I wanted a way to share that with people.
Yeah,
so
you
that
learned something else from it, and we don't have time to go into it, but you paid it forward times over and over again. Very quickly, if somebody wants to hear you sing, they can go to your website. You'll see that under Jamie's name, and you're going to be doing concerts here in Pocatello at St. Joe's.
Yep, St. Joe's the 1st of October, first weekend of October, and then in December I'll do an Advent concert about midway through December.
Oh, that's wonderful. Be sure that you go to her website. There's a great link on there for all sorts of other videos, her music, her tour schedule, to read her story. It's like a blog. And I'm really sorry to say our time is at an end. Thank you for spending the day with us. Please join us. Again, we air Sundays at 6 p.m. and Tuesdays at 10:30 a.m. On behalf of Holy Spirit Catholic Community, my name is Liz Johnson, and I humbly ask God to look with favor upon each and every one of us. Thank you for joining us today.